Hi, I am Brian D. Hill, the former news reporter of USWGO Alternative News. That's Justice for USWGO.wordpress.com and Justice for USWGO.nl. I wasn't going to do a video like this, but because of the fear of repercussions, but now I'm tired of the games. The games end here, Judge Greer. I'm finally going to declare you, Judge Giles Carter Greer of the Martinsville Circuit Court, I publicly declare you a judicial tyrant. Yes. And I said it out loud on purpose. You, Judge Greer, are a judicial tyrant, and I will explain with the evidence how and why Judge Giles Carter Greer of the Martinsville, Virginia Circuit Court is a judicial tyrant. He is not of the law. He is against the law. He is not working for the law. He is against the law. Anything he claims or says is judicial fiddle-faddle. That's all it is. Oh, the claim of what happened in 2018 is nothing more than fiddle-faddle. And here's what I've got. My family printed out that on February 14th of 2023, Judge Giles Carter Greer denied my motion to set aside or overturn my conviction, criminal conviction, on the ground of fraud on the court. Now, I have proven my innocence to it, so I will go ahead and tell you what the charge was in 2018. It was right on the fall equinox, which people who are involved with the Masons, the Illuminati, and things like that, I was arrested on the day of the fall equinox. And so, I am innocent of my charge of indecent exposure on September 21st, 2018. And I have a lot of evidence that proves my innocence. First of all, I was exposed to carbon monoxide 2 weeks short of an entire year. That's been proven. The witness, Pete Compton of Ace Chimney and Wildlife in Bassett, Virginia, and he had agreed to testify in court. He even agrees. I mean, I'm sure he would also agree to talk with the Martinsville Police Department about the fact that my my apartment, was subject to carbon monoxide poisoning, carbon monoxide gas. Now, he's not a poisoning expert, but he is a witness to carbon monoxide coming out of my chimney in my apartment for 2 weeks short of an entire year. I've got that documented, and that's in the court record. Now, I've got a letter. I've got a letter from the, his name is, let me see. His name is Kevin, it's Kendall Davis. His name is Kendall Davis. He is the, Public Information Officer for the City of Martinsville. Now, I just received word from the new Martinsville Police Chief, Martinsville Police Department. His name is Rob Fincher. And Rob Fincher has admitted what has been going on here. Now, prior to Rob Fincher, we had a corrupt police chief in the City of Martinsville. His name was G.E. Cassidy. He was a corrupt police chief. I can talk about this now because he's no longer the police chief, so he cannot retaliate against me. We have been noticing, it's hard to prove it, but here's what I can prove. There had been a lot of drug houses that were kind of getting away with what they were doing. When G. Cassidy was the police chief, there was a lot of drug houses. We were noticing the drug houses, and a lot of people in Martinsville were trying to kind of report it, because it was a problem. It was going to cause problems for Martinsville. So there were citizens that were concerned. We were aware of these citizens. My family members are aware of them. And they didn't get anywhere because, this is what I will say in my opinion. I suspect, in my opinion, that he may have been in on the take to the drug houses. I suspect it. It's my opinion, but we don't have any proof. But it's my opinion, protected under the First Amendment. Now it's up to the state police whether they can prove that or not. Because there needs to be investigations in this. Anyways, now I got a letter, thanks to the chief of police, Rob Fincher. Now, he's a good officer. He brought evidence to my case that helps further prove my innocence to my charge of indecent exposure. Now, here's what was going on here. I was under carbon monoxide 2 weeks short of a year. My name is Brian D. Hill. I'm the former news reporter of USWGO Alternative News, and I'm an ally of QAnon. Where we go one, we go all. You see the shirt? Justice for Brian D. Hill. Here's the reason why, and here's why I'm innocent. Because of the carbon monoxide, I had a weird feeling that made me want to walk out of the house. And then I thought, I thought I saw, the guy in the hoodie, and he was directing me to take my clothes off and take photos of myself and place the SD card at the bench around Southern Finishing, or my mother would be killed. They would kill my mother. And I thought there was a conspiracy against me at the time. And later on, I was writing stuff to the court saying I had blackouts. I suspect I was drugged. I was paranoid. I thought people were watching me in the thicket, in the neighbor's backyard. I thought there were people that were watching me behind the thicket of the bushes and things like that. I was really paranoid, and I was starting to not make sense. My family was like, something's wrong with him. And later on, we found out I was under carbon monoxide because somebody had installed metal tin on top of the chimney flues. And we had two gas appliances, the hot water heater and the gas furnace. And around the winter time, and then not in the winter time, there were gas appliances that were working. When the furnace wasn't doing anything, there was the hot water heater. And I have OCD, so my hand washing routines sometimes took hours. It was really bad in 2018. I was taking 1 to 2 hours every time I used the bathroom, especially if it's number 2, you know what I mean, just to be family friendly here. Every time I've had to take a dump, I took maybe up to 1 to 2 hours washing my hands and washing my body, because I felt dirty. And every time that happened, the hot water heater kept running, caused the gas to go through my fireplace, and it caused a hole in the ceiling of my apartment. And it was causing white residue to show up in my fireplace, my mom's fireplace, and she was in apartment 1, I'm in apartment 2, and even the fireplace outside had white residue. And Pete Compton looked into this, and he said, this is carbon monoxide. So I given all that proof to Judge Giles Carter Greer of the Martinsville Circuit Court. That's Giles Carter Greer, Judge Greer, the Tyrant. Now, I'm going to call him a tyrant. I was going to keep my mouth shut because I didn't want to, I was afraid of retaliation. I'm not anymore. I'm done. The games are done, Judge Greer. The games are done, you crooked judge. And so, I'm now going forth and have my family upload this video to the USWGO YouTube channel. And I want everyone to know how crooked Judge Greer is in the city of Martinsville. I want everyone to know how crooked Judge Greer is. And let me explain to you why he's crooked. Whenever I was arrested by the officer for indecent exposure, he said my statements didn't add up. That's why he thought I was lying. And I looked at him straight in the eyes and I told him, I'm telling you the truth, officer. I really did. I thought it was the truth. But when my family found out it was carbon monoxide, I'm like, okay, so the guy in the hoodie must have been a hallucination. And Piedmont Community Services, a mental health provider, diagnosed me with psychosis. And we later found out that psychosis and hallucinations was a symptom of carbon monoxide poisoning. And tachycardia. I had tachycardia 2 times. A resting blood pulse of over 100 in the hospital. After the officer arrested me, I was taken to the hospital, and they found out that I had tachycardia 2 times. They were ordering the lab tests, but because we had the corrupt police chief, G.E. Cassidy, the results were deleted from the chart, a cover-up. And so I had received word from the new police chief, Rob Fincher, that the body camera footage. Now, I was arrested on September 21st, 2018. whenever I was arrested, the officer recorded me making statements to him about why I was naked. And they must have looked over the footage and had determined that I was not in my right state of mind. If a toxicologist expert that's, an expert in gas toxicology, drugs toxicology, maybe things like hallucinogen class drugs toxicologist and, carbon monoxide toxicologist, they could have looked at the body camera footage and they would have saw me being dazed and confused and out of it, and they would have been like, wait, so there was a naked man who was caught running in the middle of the night on some walking trail that's out in the woods, and that's where I was. I was found there. I was led there because I thought the guy in the hoodie told me, I had to do that, and then I just kept walking. I kept sitting on benches. I said that under penalty of perjury to the United States District Court, and they recorded me making the statements, and somehow the officers must have determined that this footage would have been favorable to my innocence claims, because it says in the records logs, this is the new police chief, Rob Fincher, he sees 2 videos, one body camera and one in-car camera that were labeled David Hill. I think it's Brian David Hill from the date were removed, deleted by the DVMS system on 4/9/2019. That's April 9, 2019. Neither video was indicated as evidence. It was not marked as evidence. So unfortunately, the police chief says they do not have either video. If I had the videos, I would have no problem giving them to you. Because of course, I'm the suspect. I should have had a right to them. Once I was charged with indecent exposure, they should have given me those videos to look over with my lawyer. There were court orders asking for it. Judge Greer even filed a court order saying to turn over the videos. And then a few months later, after Judge Greer did that, a few months, I sent letters to the police chief, and I have proof of this. There is a certified mail return receipt of one of my letters to the police chief, G.E. Cassidy, asking for the body camera footage, and then they ignored those letters. And then they deleted it and did not mark it as evidence. Because it was not marked as evidence, it was covered up. It was deleted. And so I presented this evidence to Judge Greer whenever I was in Martinsville City Jail. A lot of inmates told me how crooked Judge Greer was. He was like, Judge Greer's terrible. I don't like Judge Greer. I hate Judge Greer. Judge Greer's a piece of shit. Yes. There was one inmate after another who was telling me bad stuff about Judge Greer, and I didn't want to believe it. I was like, inmates just talk, I'm going to prove my innocence. I shouldn't be in jail. They misunderstood. They thought I was purposely out there in the nude. They didn't know. They didn't know about the carbon monoxide. When I did find out about the carbon monoxide, it's just, I kind of thought they were just complaining about the judge because they were found guilty, or they're going to be found guilty. So now I understand why so many inmates were complaining about this judge. He is crooked. I have evidence he's crooked. And this judge needs to be removed from the bench in the circuit court. And I think there needs to be a petition to remove this judge from the circuit court from Martinsville. Now, I'm not going to push it because I don't want to get myself retaliated against. But Judge Greer is clearly a tyrant in the Martinsville Circuit Court. Maybe with this video, maybe he will recuse himself because I'm calling him out on his bullshit. So here's the evidence I filed in the court, and Judge Greer looked at it. Judge Greer was given a copy of this letter before he denied my motion, asking to relieve me of my criminal judgment, meaning I am not guilty of my charges. I am not guilty, and I've proven I am not guilty. The police chief actually worked in my favor. Yes. People would probably say, well, Brian, you were out there naked. You did something. You must have done something. You broke the law. Actually, no, I didn't. Under the Commonwealth of Virginia, you have to be appealing to the prurient interest in sex. Because I was under carbon monoxide toxicity, I did not appeal to the prudent interest in sex. And the body camera footage would have proven that. The body camera footage would have shown that I was not with it. And the officers clearly would have seen that in the body camera footage. And that's why it was destroyed. It was deleted. And you want to know who else was involved in the federal obstruction of justice? It's either Title 18, Section 1519, deletion, destruction of evidence. They've committed federal obstruction of justice in this case. Because the feds were investigating while I was out there. Why I was out there. That's why the federal court got involved in this. The probation office got involved in this. They didn't know. They were deceived. And I had recently had my mother email the probation officer, Jason McMurray. And I explained to Jason McMurray he was deceived. He was deceived. The judges were deceived. I made sure to indicate to Judge Greer that he was deceived. He doesn't care. The reason why is it implicates his friends, his buddies, his friends, Judge Greer's friends. He has friends. I would say Scott Albright is probably one of his buddies, and I would say Lauren McGarry is one of his buddies, and I would say Glenn Andrew Hall is one of his buddies. He sticks up for his buddies. He sticks up for his friends. A judge like that should not be a judge in a court of law. He stuck by his buddies. He didn't stick by the law. He didn't stick by the evidence. He didn't stick by the law or the evidence or the facts in the case. He just denies every one of my motions, no matter what proof I provide. I submitted countless witnesses before this judge. I have a list of witnesses I was presenting this judge, and he denied it all. This circuit court clown. I have provided all kinds of proof I'm innocent. I had evidence. The police officer who arrested me actually admitted I did not appeal to the prudent interest in sex. He admitted this under oath, that I did not appeal to the prudent interest in sex, meaning I was not obscene. He admitted to this. The officer who arrested me admitted to this. The chief of police, Rob Fincher, admitted that they covered up the body camera footage. It was covered up in violation of court orders. I have the evidence from the police chief who actually worked in my favor when the police chief before him was treating me like I was a piece of garbage, along with the city attorney Eric Monday. I have the names of all the traitors. I know who all the traitors are. They are all traitors. They are traitors, and they need to be prosecuted as traitors to the Constitution, traitors to due process of law. Giles Carter Greer is the top traitor, the top tyrant. And then Eric Monday was below him, the tyrant city attorney. And he was trying to block me too, along with Glenn Andrew Hall. I have evidence I'm innocent of my charge. I did not deserve it. The police officer admitted I was not being obscene. The police chief has admitted that they destroyed, the body camera footage was covered up. They deceived the court. There was a court order in the General District Court saying any recorded statements the defendant had made regarding the alleged charge, any statements made to a law enforcement officer, that's in the court order, and that was ignored. Glenn Andrew Hall, the Commonwealth's attorney for the city of Martinsville, ignored the court order. Then Giles Carter Greer came into the picture. He also filed an order on February 9th asking for the body camera footage. It's a separate court order. It was not followed. It was not complied with by Mr. Hall. Mr. A-hole. I'm going to call him an a-hole. He's an asshole. Glenn Andrew Hall is an asshole, and he should be removed from office as well. And I don't care if he doesn't like me talking about him. The games are over. The games are done. I have the evidence against all of you. The games are over. The games are done, you criminals. I have the evidence, and it's secure in certain locations. You're not going to cover it up. You hear that, Judge Greer? You're not going to cover anything up anymore. You're all going to jail. And so, I have all the proof. I have all the evidence. I have all the proof. The body camera footage was covered up. The hospital laboratory tests were ordered, then they were deleted from the chart. They were covered up. I have asked for the state police to investigate this, the Virginia State Police. I have asked the Virginia Attorney General for an investigation and for criminal inquiries. I have asked the Virginia Department of Health Professions. I have asked I've even asked the FBI for help at the very beginning of all this. None of them did anything. They're just like, you're guilty, Brian. You're guilty. You're out there in the nude. You're guilty. It doesn't matter about the carbon monoxide. It doesn't matter that you were hallucinating and you were diagnosed with psychosis. It doesn't matter that you had autism and it messed up your brain when you had carbon monoxide poisoning. And yeah, you have proof you had carbon monoxide poisoning. But Lauren McGarry said you didn't have the levels. She was a public defender. She probably still is. The public defender for Martinsville. And she said I didn't have the levels. The body camera footage, if a toxicologist would have examined the body camera footage, they would have saw before I was arrested for indecent exposure, I was not in my right state of mind. I have proof of this. I said this under penalty of perjury. Or I've done affidavits on this. Actually, I did do it under penalty of perjury. I remember it. I did that a few weeks ago. I explained to the police department. I sent the affidavit to them. To the new police department. The new police chief, Rob Fincher. And I'm grateful to Rob Fincher for telling the truth. Now, professionally, Rob Fincher, the police chief of the city of Martinsville, had done everything professionally. In this letter, I have proof from Rob Fincher, who looked into this and he saw the body camera footage was illegally, unlawfully destroyed. Now, he can't attest to that. He can only attest to what he knows, because he's not going to lie. He's going to tell the truth. He told the truth, and I gave this to Judge Greer, and Judge Greer ignored it and denied my motion and acted as though there's no fraud on the court. That's because his buddies are being implicated. Scott Albright, Glenn Andrew Hall, asshole, and Robert Jones, all these people that are probably buddies of the judge, would be implicated in the fraud on the court. And they could all be sued for defamation, for what they've done to me. They defamed me, along with Eric Monday. They all defamed me and have a fake criminal record on me. Yes, this is a fake criminal record. So if anybody looks up my criminal record, it is fake. It is false. It is fraudulent. It should be treated as fake, fraudulent, and false. Because I have real proof, and I submitted it before the judge. Before the judge, Judge Greer. I submitted all of this proof, evidence. It's not fiddle-faddle. It's fiddle-faddle what they're saying. It's fiddle-faddle the mind games they're playing. And then I have to get Mom to email it to them, but they accept email filings, unlike the federal court. So Mom's trying to email it to them, and then all of a sudden the clerks started playing games. I called one of the deputy clerks, and I'm like, did you receive the filing about Scott Albright? And the deputy clerk said, yes, I got it. But then the clerk started sending an email to my mom saying I didn't get it. So, that's Jeannie Nunn. So there might need to be some inquiries into Jeannie Nunn and Ashby Pritchett. There seems to be some kind of funny business going on here, but I don't think it's Jeannie Nunn. I'm not saying it's her. I suspect it's Judge Greer. I think Judge Greer is getting the clerks. In my opinion, it's just a suspicion. I don't have any proof to back this up yet. But I suspect Judge Greer is getting to the clerk, trying to get them to pull some funny business. And so I'm making sure I'm fighting against this crooked judge hard, because he is really working against me every step of the way. And I suspect in my appeals, he's going to, even if I win on one or two appeals, he's going to work against me even if I win on the appeals. So this judge is a major tyrant, and he needs to remove himself from my case voluntarily. And this angry video about me attacking this judge, calling him a tyrant, a piece of crap, I think Judge Greer needs to recuse himself and no longer be involved in my case. Because he's crooked. He has ignored the evidence. He's ignored the witnesses. He's ignored the police chief, Rob Fincher. He's ignored Kendall Davis. He's ignoring real evidence and witness testimony. He ignored it, and he's declaring me guilty of indecent exposure, and he's ignoring the witnesses. He's ignoring the police chief, Rob Fincher. He's ignoring all these people. He's ignoring everybody except the people who say I'm guilty. He's only one-sided. He's completely biased and partial. He has violated due process of law in every aspect of my criminal case. He has refused to take into consideration the fraud on the court. It is fraud. Yes. You can look this up. This is not my word. You can look up case law. Destruction of evidence is fraud on the court. Spoliation of evidence, especially unlawful spoliation of evidence in violation of Martinsville Police Department policy. They have violated their own policy. The destruction of the body camera footage had violated Martinsville Police Department policy. It violated federal law. Obstruction of justice. These people have committed countless crimes to keep me wrongfully convicted because they don't want to admit they made a mistake. Officer Robert Jones was in the courtroom, and when Renorda Pryor, the attorney, Renorda Pryor, kind of makes you think about Richard Pryor. Renorda Pryor, the attorney, was like, what was Brian's blood alcohol levels? The officer said, I don't know. I never checked his medical records. I never looked into his medical history. And then the officer says, Brian was medically and psychologically cleared when I arrested him for indecent exposure. Well then, did you look at his medical records? No. And this is under penalty of perjury. Another statement that was made was, well, did you talk to the doctor about his medical history? No. Did you know Brian had type 1 brittle diabetes? Did you know he had diabetes? No. The officer said, I don't recall. So he didn't know I was diabetic. He didn't know I needed insulin. He didn't know what my blood sugar was. The hospital never checked my blood sugar when they arrested me. They never checked my blood sugar. I was in a car with diabetes, and my blood sugar was low. I would have had a diabetic seizure in the squad car, and they probably would have tasered me to death. And so Judge Greer is crooked, and I have the evidence he's crooked. I have all this proof he's a crooked old judge, and I think it's time for him to recuse himself from my case. This video is, I will have my family upload this video. I wasn't going to do that before because I was afraid of retaliation. Well, now we have a good police chief, Rob Fincher. We have a good police chief. What you gonna do, Judge Greer? We have a good police chief now. What you gonna do, Judge Greer? You crook. You crook, you liar, you tyrant. I have proof you're a tyrant. I have proof. We finally have a good police chief, but a crooked judge. We have a good police chief in the city of Martinsville, but we have a crooked old judge. And it's my First Amendment right under the U.S. Constitution to bring this up. I have every right to call you a crook. Where we go one, we go all. No, you're not going to get away with this, Judge Greer. You're not going to get away with this because you're going to be under investigation, you crook. There is no stopping what is coming. Where we go one, we go all. Thank you very much. And this is dated, let's see, this will be February 15th. I think it's February the 15th, 2023. Wednesday, and this is Wednesday, so I want everyone to know what a crook Judge Greer is. They need to know. I've even met some people. I met somebody at Walgreens who said Judge Greer is crooked, and they knew how crooked the system is here. So It's time for this to finally come out because I feel scared. I feel scared for my life under this crooked judicial system. We finally have a good police chief, so we don't have to try to move to another city or town. But we have a good police chief, but we have a crooked judge. And we have a crooked prosecuting attorney. His name is Glenn Hall. He's a crook too. He's a clown. So it's finally time for people to understand what is going on here. That I am innocent of my state charge. On September 21st, 2018, I declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. Executed on February 15th, 2013, Brian David Hill. I declare under penalty of perjury the foregoing is true and correct. Judge Greer is crooked. And my opinions are of my own. And my opinions are, I feel like, they're my opinions. The opinions are separate from the facts. I do have the facts that prove that Judge Greer ignored a lot of evidence. He ignored witnesses. He ignored it all. So he is a crook. He is a tyrant. And I'm not afraid to bring this video up because he needs to be taught a lesson by the general public. He needs to understand. He needs to be taught a lesson. And the way I'm teaching him a lesson is I'm doing this video. And people need to understand what a crook he is. A real son of a bitch. A real law disobeying judge. He's not about the law. He's not about the facts. He's not about the statement of the facts. He's not about the witnesses. He's not about the law. He is a tyrant. Thank you very much.